So I was at practice today, and the vibe around this defensive coordinator situation is pretty clear. Everyone knows what's coming. When Eberflus held his press conference, he spent about 12 minutes talking without really saying much of anything. Most of the questions were about his job security, and when asked if he'd do anything differently this season, he said no. That's the ultimate answer, right? But here's the thing. Last year, around this same time, Zimmer went up there and said he wished he could have done things his way earlier in the season. Two coordinators, two completely different approaches to admitting failure. Zimmer was more honest about it, while Eberflus is playing it safe, probably trying to protect his next job opportunity. But let's be real. Is Eberflus even getting another defensive coordinator job in the NFL after this disaster of a season? The defense was atrocious. The linebacker play was terrible. And now I'm wondering, does he go coach linebackers somewhere? Does he take a year off like people thought he would after Chicago? The whole tenor of that press conference told me everything I needed to know. This man knows he's done here. Jerry Jones even gave him a soft landing on his radio interview, similar to how they handled the Mike McCarthy situation last January with that whole both sides agreed to part ways statement. We all know that's corporate speak for we're firing you, but we'll make it sound mutual. There's been some buzz about Eberflus pointing to the Micah Parsons trade as hurting the defense, but honestly, he's been asked about that all season long. It's not like this was some revelation at his final press conference. You'd have to be out of your mind to think losing an all-pro edge rusher at the start of the season wouldn't impact your defense. But I don't think Eberflus ever definitively said that Jerry put him in a bad spot by trading Micah. People are reading between the lines and making it bigger than it actually was. Micah responded to it on social media, but there wasn't anything groundbreaking in what Eberflus said. Speaking of Micah, let's talk about how differently this whole contract situation played out compared to what we're about to see with George Pickens. Pickens came out and said he's prepared to talk to Jerry about his contract, but you can tell he's not the type to get heavily involved in negotiations like Micah was. Pickens is going to let his agent, David Malugetha, handle everything. That's smart. Micah wanted to go blow for blow with Jerry about contract particulars, guarantees, all that stuff. And Jerry probably took it personally. That's why things got messy and eventually led to that trade. But with Pickens, I don't see that happening. His personality is completely different. He's not going to be firing off tweets or doing Instagram posts about contract negotiations. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Pickens is coming off one of the best wide receiver seasons in the league. He's 25 years old. He's going to command at least $30 million per year, probably more. For context, CeeDee Lamb is making $34 million, A.J. Brown is at $32 million, and Devonta Smith is at $25 million. Pickens needs to be above all of them. The Cowboys don't want to franchise tag him because that would be a $28 million cap hit right when free agency starts, and you know it's going to happen. They're going to use that as an excuse for why they can't be aggressive in free agency. Oh, we had to tag Pickens. We can't spend money elsewhere. I'm already preparing myself for that narrative. But Pickens should want to be here. He's had the experience in Pittsburgh, and he clearly didn't like how things went there. The offense here in Dallas, even with all its flaws, gives him opportunities to thrive. He's got a quarterback in Dak Prescott who can get him the ball, and he's playing alongside CeeDee Lamb, which means defenses can't just key in on him. If the Cowboys are respectful with the money, something in that $30 to $32 million range, I think this gets done. And if Dak stays healthy next year, both CeeDee and Pickens could put up monster top 5 or 6 receiver numbers. That's the potential we're looking at.
The key difference between Pickens and Micah's situation is that it shouldn't get personal. Micah's deal got personal because of how he approached it. The training camp stuff, the back and forth with Jerry. Pickens isn't going to do that. CeeDee Lamb had one tweet during his holdout, and that was it. He didn't show up to camp, but he also didn't make it a public spectacle. I think Pickens follows that blueprint. The hardest part is that this probably won't get done until June or July, which means we'll see them restructuring contracts beforehand. That's our signal that something's about to happen. But man, I really hope they don't drag this out. Now, let's talk about what the Cowboys should be doing this offseason. If I'm running things, I'm not playing around with trying to draft an edge rusher and hoping he develops. I'm moving money around to sign Max Crosby. Yes, I know you have to trade for him since he's still under contract with the Raiders, but that needs to be priority number one. You could also bring in Trey Hendrickson from Cincinnati for a look, and obviously sign George Pickens. Those should be the 3 main goals going into this offseason. Get a dominant edge rusher, lock down your number 2 receiver, and stop making excuses about cap space. The defensive coordinator search is critical, and it needs to happen fast. I remember the Schottenheimer hire dragged all the way to the Senior Bowl, and that was way too long. This is the most important offseason the Cowboys have had in probably the last 5 to 10 years. They need to be sharp and concise about who they want and what they want this defense to be. I think it should be done within 48 hours of the season ending. If it's not, I'm going to be concerned. And let's talk about the obvious candidate, Brian Flores. After watching what he did with Minnesota's defense, how can you not be intrigued? That front seven is incredible, and the way he uses his safeties is exactly what this defense needs. Harrison Smith was up on the line of scrimmage, making you think there's no safety help, and then boom, he drops back right as the ball is snapped. That's the kind of disguise and creativity we've been missing. Flores recently did an interview where he basically left the door wide open to leaving Minnesota. He didn't say anything bad about the Vikings, but he made it clear that it's about business. That tells me he's willing to move if the money's right, and Jerry needs to open up those pocketbooks. Stephon Gilmore even came out and said that if the Cowboys get Brian Flores, they'll be contenders. That's high praise. And here's the thing, if Flores comes here and says we need to invest at safety, I think Jerry actually does it. We saw it happen with Dan Quinn when he came in, and suddenly the Cowboys were drafting nose tackles and defensive tackles in the first round for the first time in forever. Quinn got his groceries, and I think Flores would too. This defense desperately needs a premium safety who can do multiple things: play in the box, cover tight ends, and provide that over-the-top help. We haven't had that since Darren Woodson, and that's not an exaggeration. I also think Flores and Will McClay could really cook together. McClay has had to shop at different grocery stores for the last 4 defensive coordinators because they all want different types of players. With Flores, they could finally get on the same page and build something sustainable. And let me tell you, if Flores comes in with that energy, that matches what Brian Schottenheimer is doing on offense. You can't have a staff where the offense is up, energetic, and the defense is just flat. This team needs unification. The players need to believe again.